Nestled within the rolling hills of Maplewood County was a gated community known as Whispering Pines. Lush green lawns, identical mailboxes, and rows of pastel-colored houses made the neighborhood look straight out of a magazine. Every tree was pruned just right, and even the cracks on the sidewalks seemed to form a perfect pattern. But like most beautiful things, the perfection was only surface deep. The Homeowners Association, or HOA, was known to be unusually strict. They issued fines for the most minor infractions: grass growing half an inch too tall, a flower pot placed 6 inches outside the designated zone, or a garage door left open for too long. Among the longtime residents, few dared to question the rules. But everything changed when the Grays moved into house number 47. Sarah and Michael Gray were a quiet, polite couple in their early 30s. Sarah was a freelance writer, and Michael, a tech consultant. They had no children, no pets, and no visible desire to mingle. They had bought the house on a short sale after its previous owner, Mr. Alden, had vanished under mysterious circumstances. The neighborhood welcomed them with hesitant curiosity. HOA President Carolyn Finch, a stern woman with meticulously curled blonde hair, made sure to stop by their door on the day they moved in. "Just here to drop off the HOA welcome packet," she said with a tight-lipped smile, thrusting a thick folder into Sarah's hands. "Everything you need to know is in there: rules, regulations, and expectations." Sarah smiled awkwardly. "Thanks. We'll be sure to read it." But neither she nor Michael read the packet. At least, not right away. The first infraction. The first issue arose 3 weeks later. It was a small thing: a decorative wind chime Sarah had hung on the front porch. It was handmade from seashells and tinkled gently in the breeze. But apparently, it violated HOA rule #16b. No sound-producing decorative items shall be placed outside the main structure of the home. A notice was taped to their door the next morning in a red envelope. It was from Carolyn naturally. "Remove the wind chime immediately, or be fined $100 per day." Michael laughed when he saw it. "Seriously? What is this place, a summer camp run by prison wardens?" Sarah didn't laugh. Something about the letter, the red ink, the tone, the way it was hand-delivered at night felt off. She took down the wind chime, but couldn't shake the unease. That night, she heard it tinkling again. But it wasn't on her porch. The community watch. A week later, Sarah began noticing strange things. Lights flickering at odd times. Footsteps on their porch when no one was there. Once, she found her front garden dug up and replanted with different flowers, uglier ones. When she asked around, neighbors shrugged and avoided eye contact. One elderly woman, Mrs. Carmichael from down the street, whispered to her, "Best to keep your head down, dear. The HOA sees everything." Michael insisted it was just small-town paranoia. "Next they'll tell you the HOA has hidden cameras in the trees." But Sarah couldn't ignore the growing sense of being watched. One evening, she stayed up late writing, the windows open to the soft night air. Around midnight, she heard someone or something breathing just outside the living room window. When she flung the curtains open, there was no one there. But on the windowsill was a new envelope. Red again. This time it read, "No outside noise after 10 p.m. Final warning." The file room. 2 days later, Sarah decided to visit the HOA office, located at the center of Whispering Pines, next to the community clubhouse. She walked in during their public access hours and was greeted by Cheryl, the part-time receptionist who looked like she hadn't slept in weeks. "Can I help you?" Cheryl asked, her voice trembling. "Yes," Sarah replied. "I'd like to see the files for House 47. Specifically, the previous owner, Mr. Alden." Cheryl hesitated. "I'm not sure you're allowed to see that. I'm the current owner," Sarah said. "I think I have the right." Cheryl reluctantly led her to a back room, filled with filing cabinets. Dusty, dimly lit, and clearly untouched for years. "You have 5 minutes," she said, then slipped away. Sarah scanned the drawers. House 47, House 47. Finally, she found the folder. Inside were dozens of documents: infractions, fines, letters from Mr. Alden begging to be left alone. The last entry chilled her to the bone. March 15th. Mr. Alden attempted to remove the HOA-installed perimeter lights without permission. Escalated to board review. Subject marked for final resolution. And beneath that was a hand-scrawled note. Gone silent. Sarah stuffed the document into her bag. That night, she confronted Michael. Something happened to Alden. The HOA did something. Look at this. She showed him the note. He frowned. This is insane. You think Carolyn and her cronies are what? Kidnapping people? I don't know, Sarah said. But I'm scared. He kissed her forehead. I'll talk to them tomorrow. This has gone too far. The disappearance. Michael never made it to the HOA office. The next morning he was gone. No sign of struggle, no note, just gone. His car, phone, even his wallet, left behind. Sarah called the police, but they found nothing. Adults go missing all the time, the officer said, as if that explained everything. That night, Sarah received another red envelope. Your household is in violation of Rule 7C. All homes must be occupied by a 2-person minimum. Rectify immediately. She tore the note to shreds. Then she did what she should have done weeks ago. She read the entire HOA welcome packet. And that's when she discovered the truth. The HOA welcome packet was far more than a collection of community rules. It was a manual of control, surveillance, and silent punishments. Sarah sat at the kitchen table all night, poring over the pages with trembling hands. Among the ordinary-seeming guidelines was a hidden section near the back titled Code Enforcements, Internal Protocols. She read lines that made her blood run cold. Violators of Rule 7C may be subjected to adjustment. Board-sanctioned removals are permanent and must be recorded in the central registry. No inquiries shall be made into finalized disappearances. The more she read, the more it became clear the HOA wasn't just enforcing petty lawn rules. They were running something deeper, something cult-like. A call for help. Sarah tried to leave Whispering Pines the next day. She packed a small bag and climbed into her car, but the moment she reached the main gate, her car engine sputtered and died. The gate wouldn't open. No cell signal. No GPS. Only silence. A man in a bright orange vest, one of the HOA's maintenance crew, appeared on foot from behind a hedge. Everything all right, ma'am? He asked, ice cold. Sarah pretended calm. Yeah, just stalled out. I'll walk back and figure it out later. She hurried home, heart racing. They were watching. They had planned this. Later that evening, she tried to access the HOA website, only to find her account locked pending disciplinary review. Then the knock came. The secret hearing. Carolyn Finch, flanked by 2 board members in dark gray suits, stood at Sarah's doorstep. You've been summoned for review, Carolyn said simply. I didn't agree to any hearing, Sarah replied, her voice shaking. You signed when you moved in, Carolyn said, waving the welcome packet. It's all in the fine print. Before she could protest further, the 2 men escorted her into a black SUV. They drove deeper into the neighborhood than she thought possible, past the known homes and into a wooded area behind the clubhouse. There stood a building she'd never seen before, a cold, concrete structure surrounded by trees. No windows, just one door. Inside was a long table, empty chairs, and a camera pointed straight at her. Carolyn stood at the head. Resident Sarah Gray, you've committed the following violations: unauthorized file access, disruption of HOA order, noncompliance with occupancy minimum. Your adjustment has been approved, pending your statement. Sarah stood her ground. Where is my husband? What happened to Mr. Alden? This is a neighborhood, not a prison. Carolyn didn't blink. Michael Gray has been relocated. Mr. Alden refused adjustment and was removed. Sarah felt her legs give way, but she stayed standing. You people are insane. Carolyn leaned forward. We're preserving peace, Sarah. Harmony. Whispering Pines must stay perfect. Anyone who cannot comply is a threat. Escape in the Pines. That night, Sarah pretended to comply. She returned her home with the board's conditions clearly stated. She had 1 week to find a new co-resident or face final adjustment. But she had other plans. She began gathering supplies, maps, a flashlight, a paper journal. She remembered Mrs. Carmichael, the old woman who once tried to warn her. Under cover of darkness, Sarah sneaked to her house. Mrs. Carmichael was waiting. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. "You're not the first." Together, they devised a plan. An old drainage tunnel behind Lot 52 led out of the neighborhood. It had once been used for construction access years ago. But it would be dangerous. The HOA's patrols scanned the area nightly, and anyone caught near the boundary was processed. The tunnel. At 3 a.m., 2 nights before her adjustment date, Sarah made her move. Dressed in black, she crawled across backyards, hiding behind trimmed hedges and garden gnomes, until she reached the overgrown path behind Lot 52. There, buried beneath ivy and rusted fencing, was the tunnel. She crawled in. The air was damp and choking. Her flashlight flickered. Halfway through, she heard voices echoing behind her. "She's in the drainage line." A voice crackled over a radio. She crawled faster. Mud caked her hands, her knees bled, and then light. She burst out on the other side of the hill, gasping. For the first time in weeks, she heard traffic. Freedom. The aftermath. Sarah contacted the police again, this time from outside the HOA's jurisdiction. She turned over the documents, her recorded conversation with Mrs. Carmichael, even footage from her hidden phone camera during the secret hearing. Whispering Pines was raided a week later. The HOA board had already disappeared. Carolyn Finch's house was empty, her car gone, her bank accounts erased. The HOA's office was abandoned, files shredded. No trace of Michael Gray. No trace of Mr. Alden. Only silence. Epilogue. 6 months later, Sarah stood on a stage at a suburban safety conference, telling her story to a stunned crowd. She had published a book titled Behind the Gate, My Escape from Whispering Pines. Whispering Pines, now rebranded under new management, was open again, but Sarah never went back. And deep in the forest, behind where the old clubhouse once stood, strange lights were still seen at night. Some say the HOA wasn't destroyed, only relocated.